Thanks for coming. Hopefully, you enjoyed your lunch, and we're not going to put you to sleep after all that good food. Um, this is not Aaron.
Yeah,
But
hi. I'm standing in for Aaron, who had some travel difficulties. So, work in the public cloud team. He's standing in.
Yep, and I'm Robert Schweikert. And let's see, this works too. So today we're going to have a very short intro, Ron and I, and then we'll talk about the SUSE listings that we have in the public cloud. We'll go through the life cycles of our images just to get everybody level set. We'll do a quick recap of what we introduced last year, basically since SUSECon 2024 to this year. And then we'll take a look ahead, hence the roadmap title of this presentation. And then at the end, we'll have time for question and answers if you have any of those. All right. With this, let's get started. Again, this is not Aaron. This is Ron. Yep. And I'm Robert Schweikert. I'm Distinguished Engineer at SUSE. I've been with the company for about 16 years, focused on public cloud for about 13 of those 16 years. And been working on the cloud effort from the very beginning when SUSE got involved with public cloud very early on. Going back, working with Amazon for, 13, 14 years. And then Azure, and we added Google later. And so pretty much grew up with that stuff. So let's first talk about where you can find SUSE listings, because that is not necessarily simple and it is different per cloud provider. So we're going to just do a recap on that. So there are now 4 listing types that we have. Also, this is all cloud dependent. So we will try to point out where things are available in certain clouds and where they are not. So we have VM images. Those are the OS products. So SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, SUSE Linux Enterprise Micro, and then eventually was renamed to SUSE Linux Micro, and SUSE Linux for high performance computing. So those are VM images of the OS products. Then there's SUSE Linux, SUSE Multi-Linux Manager, which has 2 listings, the server and the proxy. And then we have a container listing at present, which is Manager Prime. And then we have software as a service with the SUSE Cloud Observability. And then there are professional service listings, which are Call Me listings, Ron.
The Call Me listings are a mix, and this is probably useful to know. Some of these Call Me listings you can call us to get private offers from. Some of them are just how to obtain and run the product on the cloud, and we'll go through this in upcoming slides. But some of these things you can actually procure as a private offer through the marketplace.
Yeah. And then, so these are also listed in, different places, marketplaces. AWS has the general catalog where we have stuff. But these are the products that are currently available. And this morning in the keynote, if you were there, you heard about SUSE Application Catalog. That is a SaaS listing that is brand new, and we just finished that. Yeah. And so especially in Azure, when you go to the marketplace and you look for the OS listings, you will see many listings. The reason for that is there was a technical limitation in Azure that was recently fixed. And so over the course of this year, we will start consolidating those listings. And that will then make it easier. Okay, so let's look at various cloud providers and specific. So in AWS, Amazon Web Services, we have marketplace listings for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, BYOS, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP applications, pay-as-you-go in BYOS, SUSE Linux HPC, BYOS, SUSE Linux Micro. SUSE Linux Micro has 2 listings. that you will be able to see in the marketplace. One is for EU specific, and one is for the other part of the world. When you, just a second, I'll get to you. The one you want to select depends on where your account is built. So if your account is built through Amazon in Germany, then you would use the EU listing. If you're outside the EU, you would use the US listing. Don't worry, if you use the quote-unquote wrong listing, Amazon will give you a nasty message and tell you that you can't use it, and then you just have to go back and use the other one. This is a user experience that we cannot control, so it's not a very nice user experience, but they do tell you that you're using the wrong listing. Yeah, so then there's a Rancher Prime listing, which is on the marketplace. This is a pay-as-you-go. And then there's SUSE Cloud Observability, that's SaaS. There is the long-term service pack support. That's a contract. So that's one of those call me listings. And how LTSS works, we'll talk about that in more detail later. Then there is, again, multi-Linux support, which is a contract, premium support, contract, and so on. You can see that. In the EC2 Quick Launcher, that means when you bring up the EC2 console, you will see SUSE Linux Enterprise Server pay-as-you-go. And then in the general catalog, you will also find SUSE Linux Enterprise Server pay-as-you-go and SUSE Linux Micro BYOS. Okay. In Azure, it's a little simpler. Everything is in the marketplace. But as I said, when you go to the Azure Marketplace, you will see, many listings. That has a technical reason for that. That was just recently resolved on the Microsoft side. And again, we're going to start consolidating the listing. So you're only going to see a listing for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 15, and then eventually one for 16. And then various service packs or point versions underneath that, instead of having one listing per service pack as it is currently. You will also find SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP, HPC. You will find Micro, SUSE Linux Manager, pay-as-you-go on BYOS. Again, that has a server and a proxy image. Rancher Manager Prime, pay-as-you-go. And then again, the SUSE Global Services contract listing is available in the Azure Marketplace.
Do you have a slide? I can't remember. Do we have a slide that talks about the changes in going forward? I mean, I'll just say it. So going forward now and going forward, every one of those listings can now be procured as a private offer also, which is, yeah.
Okay. And then we have Google, where things in the marketplace, we have currently only contract listings. And then through the Google Compute Engine console, you find SLES, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP, HPC and Micro as BYOS, and SUSE Multi-Linux Manager as BYOS. So that's where we are at present. And this is where you find the listings. How else do you find our images? We have a service that's called the Public Cloud Information Tracker, PINT. So that name should be easy to remember. There's a party tonight, and you can enjoy a pint or two. And then that should remind you of the stuff. So the graphical interface is on pint.suse.com. You can go there with your browser if you're point and click. And if you like the command line tool, there is a Pint command line tool that is available in SUSE Linux Enterprise Server through the repositories, through the Python SUSE Public Cloud Info package. Then you can install that, and then this provides you information about images that we publish in all the cloud providers, all the way back to the very first one that we published in AWS in US East 1, if you're so inclined.
Point this covers images. So some of the listings up there are not in.
Yeah, so this covers all the VM images. Yeah. And so the information you get from Pint is enough for you to create an instance, in any of the frameworks. So for AWS, the information you get back is an AMI ID. For Microsoft Azure, you get the urn that you can then use on the CLI. And for Google, you have the image name and the project that the image is published from. And then with that information, you can use the command line tools to start an instance. Okay, so all the information that you need to start an instance from those images is in the Pint information that you get back. All right, let's cover a bit about the life cycles. So VM images, they follow a 3-month rolling refresh cycle. The image that is being replaced automatically goes to a deprecated state. Deprecation lasts 6 months, and then the image gets deleted. Images get refreshed when there's a critical CVE. That means CVSS score 9 or higher, or when that fix is available, of course, or when there's an issue with the boot. Let's say a bootloader slipped through and that the image doesn't boot properly, or a new instance type gets introduced and we need to make a change in the kernel and things like that. Then, that's when we refresh the images. The container listings usually get replaced when the new version of Ranger Manager gets refreshed, gets released. And that release is dedicated as a prime release, right? So Ranger Manager has the upstream releases, which are the community releases you can pick up from GitHub. Not every one of those releases is designated as a prime release. So if it's not designated as a prime release, we will not put it into the cloud, right? And then the SaaS listings, obviously they're hosted listings, and we manage the back end. And that gets updated as we see fit. Let's say we release an image on March 1st. If there's no security issue in between, right, then the next image would be released March, April, May, so June 1st, right? That's a 3-month rolling refresh. If, let's say, on May 1st we have a CVE, then that 3-month clock resets and we start counting at 0 again, right? And well, this is actually in the next slide, but earlier this year, we announced that we're changing also the inactive images to a 3-month rolling refresh. So inactive images are all those distributions that are in the LTSS period or SPAS period for SAP, right? So we have the general support lifecycle, which is 18 months for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and 45 months for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP. Well, the 45 months include the extended overlap service pack support, SPAS. So in those 18 months, images get refreshed on this 3-month rolling release cycle. And images that were in the LTSS period only got refreshed when there was a critical CVE release. So we had many requests from customers and partners to also refresh the LTSS images more often. And so earlier this year, we changed that so that the LTSS images like 15 SP5 and 4 and 3, for example, and 12 SP5, they also now get refreshed on the 3-month rolling refresh cycle, so that LTSS customers also get that benefit of having newer images to start new instances. All right. So what did we do since last SUSECon? We did not sit around and look at the stars. So these are some highlights on what happened in the last year. We had the SUSE Linux Enterprise 15 SP6 family refresh. So there were new images for SLES for SAP, SLE for HPC. There were new micro releases 6.1 and 2. We released SUSE Multi-Linux Manager 5.0. There was a major change in the architecture for SUSE Manager. SUSE Manager is now a container-based application. While for 5.0, it's exactly one container, but it is a container. For 5.1, there will be 2 containers. And also, SUSE Multi-Linux Manager now includes a 30-day free trial. So you can stand up an instance, you can enroll client systems, you can test it out 30 days free, right? If you're using the pay-as-you-go version, it's automatically included. We released Ranger Manager Prime 2.9.1. That also includes a 30-day free trial if you're using the pay-as-you-go version. So again, you can, stand it up, play with it. No charge for the first 30 days. We released SUSE Cloud Observability as a SaaS. We're supporting confidential compute, SEV, and TDX. That is supported by us in all CSPs. Unfortunately, in Azure, that feature is not yet available because we're waiting on things to happen on the Microsoft backend. We're working with Microsoft to get that done, but it's still going to take a little while. What else? We had SUSE Manager 4.3. There was a refresh, and that's still there because it moved into an LTSS period. We have SUSE multi-Linux support listings. Those are the service listings, and we updated the CSP toolchain packages to Python 3.11. And then we added LTSS support for pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, sure in that, Jack. But it's I'll try to walk through this. Well, this year's we introduced the apply LTSS to pay-as-you-go images. So if you went to a marketplace and you bought, a few years ago, you pulled a version of SLES, in 18 months, it would cycle up of active support, and you have to rev it.
Yeah, I mean, so basically there's not a whole lot change on the client side, right? We have this register cloud guest command, and on a pay-as-you-go instance, when you start that runs automatically and does the registration for you with the update infrastructure. When you add LTSS, you simply run this command and you pass in the registration code that you got from SUSE when you went through this process. And that's it. And then the rest happens automatically. So we try to make this as seamless as possible, given the environment that we work within. Again, so when you're going through this contract process and everything is agreed on, you will get the registration code from SUSE, and then you just run this command and pass in this registration code that you received for LTSS. You will get connected to the repositories where your instance is already pointing to. And what also happens when you're doing this process is that you will get a container registry set up. When you have LTSS support, you also are eligible to access LTSS container builds that we make available. And these will then also come from the update infrastructure. So that's another thing that we added last year, which is registry support in the update infrastructure. Yeah, so this connection, because these are generally region local to where your instances run, is extremely fast, right? Because it's running in the same region on the same network in the cloud provider. We're doing this because we're realizing you want to pay for your instances in the CSP for running your workloads, not for running updates, right? So this makes this extremely fast and very painless to get updates from the update infrastructure. Yeah, and as Ron says, this about 350 servers across all cloud providers that are maintained, expected with 24/7 uptime.
And then every a CSP stands up a new region. We add another 3.
Yep. All right. So that was the recap of what we did in the last year. Now let's go take a look ahead. Announced at SUSECon today, you heard that this morning in the keynote, the SUSE application collection is available only on the AWS Marketplace at this time. It is a contract listing with a free trial. Okay, so when you go into the AWS Marketplace and you select this listing and you subscribe, you have two options. You can select the free trial or the contract. The free trial period is 30 days. It does not automatically convert from a free trial to a paid listing. So if you select the free trial, you get access to the application collection. And then on day 31, if you have not come back and selected the contract, then your access to the application collection will go away because there's no automatic conversion. The way it works is that you subscribe in AWS in the marketplace. Then you need to access a link that is on the AWS marketplace listing. That takes you to the SUSE site for an onboarding page. You fill out the information there. Basically, we're looking for your contact information because we don't get that from AWS. And you will become a direct customer of SUSE through this process. So we want to know your email, your name, your phone number, things like that. And then once that is completed, you access the SUSE application collection, which runs on apps.rancher.io. And that's pretty much it. Through this process, you get an account in the SUSE Customer Center. And then if you have issues with any of the containers that come through the application collection, you log into the SUSE Customer Center, you can file a support ticket there. And that's pretty much it. So it's pretty easy. Yeah. So this is 30-day free trial. You can see all the applications that are in the application collection, right? So the application collection is a cured set of containers or Helm charts, depending on what it is, right? So some applications that are in there, for example, the AWS CLI, which was just recently added, it's just a container that you run with Podman, and that's it, right? So you will find things like that in the application collection that are just simple containers, and you will find more complicated applications that you get with a Helm chart that then set up multiple containers. You can also get that from the application collection. Yeah, and when you get SUSE AI, there are certain parts
Not enough.
but this is not part of the application collection, right? So you will not see the AI pieces in the application collection. All right, so that what we announced today. What else is coming? SUSE Linux Enterprise, if we're just looking at the server family. So we're going to have, and you heard that in the keynote again this morning as well, from Rick Spencer. We're going to have SUSE Linux Enterprise 15 SP7. The whole family, again, is going to be SLES for SAP, HPC. And then we're going to have the new version of SUSE Linux Enterprise 16, which is currently still under heavy development. There's going to be a faster life cycle for the CSP tool chains. So if you're using the AWS CLI or the Azure CLI, the packages that SUSE provides, they are going to rev faster once we get to SLE 16 because we're not going to install those anymore on the base distribution. That's a different topic, and I'm happy to talk to you about that after the presentation if you're interested. There's going to be, as I say, enhanced lifecycle management. SLE 16 will also have there will be no more modules in SLE 16. So if you look at the repositories you have today for SUSE Linux Enterprise 15, if you ever do a super list repos, right, you will see on the order of 20 repositories, something like that. That will go away. There will only be one repository, so it'll be a lot easier to see where the packages are coming from. MPO listings in Azure, so that's multiple private offers. We just finished that last week. So that's actually available now. I wasn't quite sure whether we're going to get that done. And then soon you're going to have channel partner listings in AWS. It should be about a couple of months away. And then we're always working on new instance type support. That is generally only for the active distributions. And then, as Ron already mentioned, new regions.
Just a comment on the MPO. So those listings, the multiple private offers on Azure are available for all VMs and all products that are available to the Azure Marketplace. That's what we're talking about. There's a lot up in this. That particular line to everything.
All right. SUSE Multi-Linux Manager, server and proxy, available on ARM64 architecture, is coming soon, probably in April. So currently this is only available x86-64, and we're working on ARM. Yeah, it should be up there with the next product refresh. And then we have version 5.1 coming up sometime in the middle of the year. And then for SaaS, the SUSE Cloud Observability Client as an EKS add-on that also just finished, like I think yesterday. Well, this is why this is in, the looking ahead section. And then there's the plan to have, as you heard this morning, referred to in the keynote as Ranger hosted. So this is SUSE Ranger Manager for I think SUSE multi-cluster manager now.
That's got a cool
Anyway,
name.
it's Ranger Manager. It's going to be running as a service, and will be available in AWS through the marketplace as a SaaS listing. And once we have the SaaS listing, the plan is that the pay-as-you-go listing will go away.
And if you want a detailed overview, everything the manager of the group sitting in the back.
With you question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the control plane of the SaaS listing will run in AWS. Initially,
In our tenant.
only in one region. That's the initial release. We will eventually add functionality to stand up the control plane in other regions. But initially it's going to be only in one region. And yeah, the control plane will run in AWS, but you can manage any cluster that you need to manage, so that it doesn't change the functionality of Rancher Manager, right? Just because the control plane runs in AWS, you can still run your manage your on-premise Kubernetes cluster through Ranger Manager, if you're using it as a service, right?
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.